Okay, fine. So this is about the cross-sectional view of the capillary tube. This is the overall capillary tube. This is called as the outer diameter, and this is called as internal diameter. The capillary tube has been coated with a polyimide. Say 20 to 35 micrometer of polyimide coating is made. And the internal diameter, this is very less, and this will be around in the range from 25 to 75 micrometer. And this internal diameter is lesser than the internal diameter of the GC column. But the outer diameter will be around 200 to 375 micrometer. This is going to be the outer diameter. The whole capillary is made by silica, and the outer surface of the capillary tube has been coated by polyimide, and the outer diameter will be 200 to 375 micrometer. The internal diameter will be 25 to 75 micrometer. The polyimide coating will be 20 to 35 micrometer. Okay. So this is a slide presented here in order to explain the Joule heating. Joule heating is nothing but, say, the buffer solution is moving in the internal passage where it is present in the capillary tube. The internal passage will become responsible. So this is going to be the walls of the capillary, right side and left side walls of the capillary has been presented. And this the flow of the buffer medium in the internal tube of the capillary, in the internal diameter of the capillary, you can see here. So electrokinetic movement, the electrokinetic movement of the solute as well as the buffer can be seen here, not the hydrodynamic flow. The electrokinetic movement can be seen here. When you apply the electric energy, at the center of the capillary tube, the heat energy will be generated. This generated heat is called as Joule heating, or the heating generated because of Joule heating. This Joule heating, or the amount of heat energy generated at the center, will become very high when you take the capillary tube which is having larger internal diameter. Larger internal diameter, if you assume, the walls of the capillary will be having lower thickness. If the thickness of the wall is very low, the internal diameter will be high. As the internal diameter of the capillary is going to be high, the viscosity of the buffer solution tend to be decreased. And not only the viscosity is tend to be decreased, but it will become responsible to increase the electroosmotic flow. So this is going to impair the resolution, and this is also going to impair the efficiency of the separation in capillary electrophoretic process. Therefore, it is recommended to use a narrow bore capillary tubes with lower internal diameters and large outer diameters. Because if the outer diameter is more, the effective dissipation of the Joule heat will be expected, can be anticipated. If the outer diameter is less, the Joule heating will become very high, and that will become responsible to increase the electroosmotic flow. Therefore, the resolution is going to be impaired. And after capillary is getting ready for the separation process, the introduction of the sample is also very important. The introduction of the sample will be done in two ways: hydrodynamic injection and electrokinetic injection. Hydrodynamic injection is very simple. Here, either pressurizing the sample vial, which is connected with the source reservoir, or by applying a vacuum at the destination reservoir, the sample of known volume Vnj will be introduced, and the volume of the sample introduced can be calculated by using this particular expression. But delta P is the difference in pressure across the capillary tube. D is the diameter of the capillary, internal diameter. T is the time for which pressure applied. Eta is going to be the viscosity of the buffer, and L is going to be the length of the capillary. So if you use larger ID having capillary tube, the volume of the sample what has been introduced will also become more. And if you adjust the pressure, which is having greater difference between the initial and the final pressure during the pressurization process, the larger volume of the sample is going to be increased. Overloading of the capillary is going to impair the resolution. You must be very careful. So this is how In hydrodynamic injection, what is the volume of the sample introduced can be calculated. Apart from hydrodynamic injection, the sample can also be introduced electrokinetically. Electrokinetic injection is very simple, in which the capillary tube one end and the anode are directly placed into the sample vial. And after the application of the electric field, this much amount of the solute is going to be introduced, and this can be calculated by using this particular expression. Here, the electrophoretic mobility of the solute, if you are assumed to be larger, those kind of solutes are introduced in larger amounts. If in a sample, there are variety of group of solutes are present, some group of solutes are possessing larger electrophoretic mobility, and those are all the solutes are going to be introduced in larger amounts. So their concentration is represented by C, and T is nothing but amount of time for which the electric field is applied. R is going to be the radius of the capillary tube, because it is having inner diameter. What is the radius of the capillary tube? We can represent by R. And E is going to be the magnitude of the electric field. E is going to be the magnitude of electric field. K buffer is the conductivity of the buffer solution. Buffer is having known ionic strength and the concentration. So what is the conductance? We need to put in this particular equation. And of course, the sample is also going to have its own conductance. So this is how we can calculate the number of solutes introduced into the capillary tube in electrokinetic injection. So those solutes with the largest electrophoretic mobilities are injected in greater numbers than those with the smallest electrophoretic mobilities. Means the cations, which are smaller in size and they are larger in charge, they are going to be introduced in larger amounts than smaller, more negatively charged ions. So as I have given in the examples I explained yesterday, efficiently separable solutes are going to be introduced in larger amounts. So you have to fix the experimental condition in such a way that without any bias, a sample is needed to be introduced. So after the introduction of the sample and the sample containing the solutes movement is very important for us in capillary electrophoresis. And the concentration of the solute is also very important in the sample. If you have introduced the sample is having lower concentration of the solute, it will become prominent to increase the concentration of the solute after the introduction of the sample into the capillary tube in a process known as stacking process. What is this stacking process? You assume the sample has been introduced into the capillary tube, which is having lower concentration. If the concentration is low, that means to say that it will possess larger resistance. If the resistance of the solution is high, we know from Ohm's law, E is equal to I into R, where E is going to be the potential, I is going to be the current, and R is going to be the resistance. As the resistance is more, the electric current passing through the capillary, what we have applied will be fixed. So that is also going to be increased. That will also become greater. So the electrophoretic velocity is directly proportional to the electric field. We know nu EP is directly proportional to the strength of the electrical field. Thus, the ions present in the sample plug will migrate at a faster velocity, faster rate. When these solutes reach the boundary between the sample plug and the buffering solution, the electric field strength will be decreased. Therefore, their electrophoretic velocity slows down. And this slowing down will be taken place in a process known as stacking. So that can be represented in this figure in a more prominent manner. You assume this dark spotted plug is called a sample plug, which is having greater width, and this is presented to indicate the concentration of the solution is very low. Once it is introduced into the capillary tube, because the solute molecules are moving at a faster rate, because the electrical field strength has been increased because of the greater resistance, the solutes will travel at a faster rate. Therefore, all the solutes are concentrated. Initially, this was the sample plug what we have introduced. Now the sample plug has been reduced to this much width. Means when compared to here, the concentration of this particular plug is very high. And this process is called a stacking process. So if the resistance is more, the electric field strength will also become more, and that will become responsible to increase the electrophoretic mobility of the solute. And this electrophoretic mobility of the solute will become larger than the electroosmotic flow. Therefore, the solute molecules are going to be stacked. So, this is the advantage in electrophoretic techniques. Even the lower concentrations of the solutes can also be detected without any bias, without any limitations. Even though concentration is very low, we can increase the concentration by stacking process. And we can apply 20 to 40 kilovolts of potential, because higher voltages are always required in order to reduce the analytical time, where the migration time for individual solute can be reduced. As a result of the reduced migration time, the analytical time can also be reduced. And the efficiency, the value of n will become more if the value of V is high. If you apply greater voltages, the number of theoretical plates obtained will also become high, and consequently the resolution can be excellent. Therefore, what value of the voltage needed to be applied is also very important. Normally 20 to 40 kilovolts, 20 to 40 k volts of voltage is required for the efficient separation of the solutes by electrophoretic technique. And when we come to the detectors, all detectors which are used in HPLC can also be used in electrophoretic separation process in order to detect the solutes. Mainly UV visible absorption detectors can be used, fluorescence detectors used, conductivity, amperometric, and mass spectrometric detectors are used. So here, very dilute solutions of the samples are employed for the detection process. Therefore, it is very essential to increase the path length. So what we have done in HPLC, that we have used Z-shaped cells. Z-shaped cells are employed in HPLC detectors, especially in UV visible absorption detectors, in order to increase the path length. So with the same objective, the flow cells or the sample cells which are having Z in shape are also used in electrophoresis also. So the effluent from the capillary tube will be entering this flow cell, will be entering this cell of detector or the sample cell. So the path length of the solution has been increased. The light radiation of known wavelength is passed through this particular cell, and by passing this, what is the amount of the light energy absorbed can be calculated by using A is equal to 2 minus log T, because we are able to note down the transmission. This can be used to calculate the absorbed light energy manually. Otherwise, detector will be giving photo multiplier tubes or photo diode array detectors will be doing all this business. Apart from using these Z-shaped cells, even we can use laser beam technology in order to detect the solutes. In laser beam technology, assume this is the capillary tube. This is the overall is the capillary tube, and capillary tube is having the walls and the ID, internal flow provision, and the coating material made by polyimide, and which has been coated by reflective coating. So at the beginning, this coating is open, and at the end, the coating is also open. If you pass a beam of laser having energy of h nu through the capillary, through which the solutes are passing at the mid, you can say capillary opening through which the solutes are passing. The laser is a highly energetic beam, and this highly energetic beam will produce greater reflecting radiations with intensities of satisfactory level. Therefore, we can take the deviation between what is the amount of the light energy made to pass through the solutes and what is the light energy coming out after getting all reflections from the reflective coating. So this difference can be utilized in order to detect the solute. So this will be utilizing the laser technology. So these are the two important types of detectors what we can understand for the easy functioning of the detectors while detecting the solutes in capillary electrophoresis. And this table summarizes other variety of the detectors which are commonly employed in capillary electrophoretic separation, including UV visible absorption detectors, indirect absorption detectors, which is called as universal detector, which is having the detection limit of 10 4 minus 4 to minus 6 molar. So this is less sensitive than UV visible absorption detector. And fluorescent detectors is highly sensitive in compared to UV visible absorption detector because it is having detection limit in the range from 10⁻⁷ to 10⁻⁹. So like this, all these variety of the detectors can be used. Some detectors such as UV absorption detectors, indirect absorption detectors, fluorescent detectors, laser detectors, and radiometric detectors can be directly hyphenated with the capillary electropherographic instrument, whereas mass spectrometric, amperometric, and conductivity detectors cannot be used on column. Means they cannot be hyphenated with the capillary tube. We have to collect the effluent, then we have to subject them for separate analysis while using mass spectrometric, amperometric, and conductivity detectors. In contrast to the capillary electrophoretic separation, capillary zone electrophoresis is also another important type of capillary electrophoretic technique. So what we can see in capillary electrophoresis, the movement of the solutes, mainly the movement of the positively charged species towards the negatively charged cathode, and the movement of the negatively charged species towards the positively charged anode can be seen. You will have a capillary tube, you will have a capillary tube. In the capillary tube, both the electroosmotic flow and electrophoretic flow can be seen. Electrophoretic movement is at faster rate than the electroosmotic flow. In such a way, we have to use the buffer. So you have a source reservoir and the destination reservoir. Source reservoir is having the buffer into which the anode is immersed, and the destination reservoir is also having the buffer into which the cathode has been immersed. So the terminals of cathode and anode is connected to a high voltage device. And there is a capillary connected in between the source reservoir and the destination reservoir. In between, there is a detector. Detector will be very soon before the destination reservoir. So when you apply the electric field, the movement of the solutes will be seen in such a way that positively charged species will be moving at a greater velocity than the negatively charged species or than the neutral species. So all those positively charged species which are carrying greater charges and lower size will be possessing more value of electrophoretic mobility, greater electrophoretic mobility. So they will be eluted first. And all those cations which are having lower charge and large size, they are going to be eluted last. Similarly, neutrals are going to be eluted as a single band, and the anions which are having larger charge and smaller size, they are going to be eluted last. They are going to be eluted last. So this what we have seen in conventional capillary electrophoretic technique. Means in conventional capillary electrophoretic technique, we can say cations will elute first, then neutral species remain stationary or they are eluted as a single band. Then at last, the anions are going to be eluted. So in this simpler form of capillary electrophoresis, these type of elutions are seen. First, cations, based on their charge to size ratio, they are going to be eluted. Then neutral species, then anions. This order of elution can be reversed. Very simply, they can be reversed. Means, first we can make anions to get eluted, then neutrals, then cations. How to do this? You take a capillary tube. You take a capillary tube. Into the capillary tube, buffer solution is going to be immobilized. Buffer solution having known ionic strength, containing known concentration of the species, we can use as a conductive medium. So into the buffer solution, you just add any alkyl ammonium salts, the solution of alkyl ammonium salts you introduced into the buffer. Say for example, here I have presented one alkyl ammonium salt, quaternary ammonium salt, whether it may be in the chloride form or sulfate form, whatever it is. It is added in excess. Alkyl ammonium salt is added in excess. This is going to be the alkyl ammonium salt. This can be written shortly in this manner. This is having a positively charged head and the hydrophobic tail. Positively charged head, hydrophobic tail. So positively charged head is present in the alkyl ammonium ion, alkyl ammonium salt. The walls of the capillary is ionized. The selenol groups of walls of the capillary ionized to get converted to selenate anions, and therefore they are negatively charged. These negatively charged selenate anions will attract the positively charged species like these alkyl ammonium salts. From the alkyl ammonium salts, the positively charged species are going to be attracted towards these selenate anions. So these heads represented by positive charge are oriented towards the selenate anion. That means to say that the negative charge. So they will be attracted towards the selenate anions by directing the hydrophobic tail outward. Now, the negatively charged capillary wall has been converted into contained weight hydrophobic tail, hydrophobic alkyl tail. Here, CH3, CS2, N times CS2 can be written as alkyl tail. So this alkyl tail is hydrophobic. There is a prominent hydrophobic interaction is going to be taken place between the hydrophobic tail of this alkyl ammonium group and other alkyl ammonium group. So other alkyl ammonium groups are present in the capillary tube. The hydrophobic tail of those free alkyl compounds are attracted by the hydrophobic group of the alkyl compound attracted by the selenate anion. Like this, you can see here. There is hydrophobic interaction. So the head of these alkyl compounds, alkyl ammonium compounds, are present in excess. So now these positively charged heads will attract negatively charged species from the mobile layer. From the mobile layer, the negatively charged species are attracted from these positively charged species. Therefore, the movement of the negatively charged species will become more when compared to the movement of the positively charged species. While in the case of conventional capillary electrophoretic separation, the movement of the positively charged species was greater than the movement of the negatively charged species. Now the movement has been reversed. Movement of the cationic species has been reversed by the movement of the anionic species. So the electrophoretic mobility of the anions will become greater than the electrophoretic mobility of the cations. So this is called as reversed capillary zone electrophoresis. In this reversed capillary zone electrophoresis, anions are going to be eluted first, then the neutral species, then cations. So this will be done by introducing large excess of alkyl ammonium salt into the buffer solution. There, the positively charged alkyl ammonium compound will be attracted by the negatively charged selenate groups of the capillary wall. Thereby, the alkyl chain is pointed outward. These alkyl chains are attracted by the alkyl chains of the alkyl ammonium compound from the mobile layer. Therefore, the positively charged species are present now. They will be attracting the negatively charged species from the moving solution. Therefore, the electrophoretic mobility of the anions will become greater now. Therefore, the movement is reversed. Previously, from anode to the cathode, the movement was. Now, the movement is from cathode to anode. Cathode is going to be the source reservoir, and anode is going to be the destination reservoir now, because anions are moving towards the anode. So this is how the reversed capillary zone electrophoresis can also be performed. So in conventional capillary zone electrophoresis, it is also called as simple capillary electrophoresis. Cations are going to be eluted first, then at last anions. In reversed capillary zone electrophoresis, by utilizing the property of alkyl ammonium salts, we can reverse the order of elution in such a way that anions eluted first, then neutrals, then cations. Okay, so the order is just reversed under the normal condition, and the neutrals cannot be separated by means of this capillary zone electrophoresis also. Whether you are going to perform conventional capillary electrophoresis or reversed capillary zone electrophoresis, whatever it is, neutrals cannot be separated. So by using the principle of capillary zone electrophoresis, any charged species can be separated, such as inorganic anions or cations, organic acids, amines, and even large biomolecules such as proteins can also be subjected for separation by this capillary zone electrophoresis, because they possess charges, and based on their charges, they can be subjected for separation very easily. And even say, for example, 36 inorganic and organic ions can be migrated in 3 minutes. Within 3 minutes, we are able to complete the separation of 36 solutes present in a mixture containing inorganic and organic compounds. But neutral species, of course, they are eluted as a single band. We will not be in a position to distinguish what are the different kinds of solutes present in this group of neutrals. So how the neutrals are going to be separated now? This is going to be the question. Whether slab gel electrophoresis you perform or capillary electrophoresis you perform or reverse capillary electrophoresis or capillary zone electrophoresis you perform, neutrals are going to be eluted as a single band. We cannot distinguish different solutes, different neutral solutes with respect to their order of elution because we don't have order. The electrophoregram do not describe the order of elution of neutrals. How this problem is overcome? How the neutrals are going to be separated by capillary electrophoresis? Or is it not a suitable technique to perform the separation of neutral species? These are the questions arised in front of us. The answer is we cannot ignore the neutrals. We can separate the neutrals also. How do we do this? This will be done by using micellar electrokinetic capillary chromatography. The principle remains same in micellar electrokinetic capillary chromatography also, which can be shortly denoted as MEKC, which will also utilize a capillary tube, which will also utilize a buffer, which will also utilize a cathode and anode, which will also need the electrical energy to be applied, and which will also having the electrophoretic mobility and electroosmotic mobility. So why do we call this as micellar electrokinetic capillary chromatography? It is suitable for the separation of neutrals. What is this? What exactly will be done in micellar electrokinetic capillary chromatography? You have a buffer in the capillary tube. Buffer is immobilized or buffer is retained in the conductive medium. So before the application of the electric field, buffer is going to be mixed with surfactant molecules such as sodium dodecyl sulfate. This is going to be sodium dodecyl sulfate. Sodium dodecyl CS2 11 times CS3. This is alkyl chain. Sodium dodecyl sulfate. This is a surfactant molecule. This can be written as shortly in this form: negatively charged head and hydrophobic tail. This is the head, this is going to be the tail. So this molecule will be added in excess, large excess of sodium dodecyl sulfate or a surfactant molecule is added into the buffer, and that can be immobilized into the capillary tube. So when this surfactant molecule is added in excess, 40 to 100 molecules of this surfactant will agglomerate together to form a special state. It is called as micelle. Micelle will be having this type of structure. So the structure will be explaining in a better way that this is having a hydrophobic tail and negatively charged head. All those negatively charged head will be pointing outward, and all those hydrophobic tail will be pointed out inward. Hydrophobic tails are pointed inward. The negatively charged heads pointed outward. So these hydrophobic tails agglomerated together by combining by pointing inward, and the negatively charged heads pointed outward. And as a consequence of this, due to the agglomeration of 40 to 100 molecules of the surfactant molecule, a micelle has been formed. Here, the micelle is going to play a very, very important role. So, how this micelle is going to play the role here? Because micelles are negatively charged, the negatively charged head is pointed outward. So, all those negatively charged heads are pointed outward. The velocity of the micelle will be lower than the electroosmotic flow. Means the ions of the buffer will be moving at a faster velocity than the micelle, because micelle is formed by the agglomeration of 40 to 100 surfactant molecules, and it is having more hydrophobic tails. So its movement is lower than the movement velocity of the ions of the buffer. So the electroosmotic velocity will be greater than the velocity of the micelle. velocity of the micelle. You assume your sample is containing neutrals. Micelle is having hydrophobic tails. All those hydrophobic tails are pointed inward, and this agglomerated micelle is moving in the conductive medium slowly. Micelle is moving in the conductive medium slowly. While it is moving, because your sample containing the neutral spaces, these neutral spaces will tend to partition between the micelle and the buffer. Because it is having a hydrophobic tail, these hydrophobic tails will become responsible in order to make the neutral spaces to get partition between the micelle and the buffer. So this partitioning will be resembling the partitioning of the solute in HPLC between the stationary phase and the mobile phase. That's what the term we will be using here, the chromatography. But here, both the phases are liquids. Micelle is also present in the liquid, and buffer is also liquid. Both the phases are liquids, and even though both the phases are liquids, the partitioning will be taken place between both the phases, both the liquid phases, and hence the term the chromatography is going to be used. Because there is a partitioning of the neutral solutes between the two phases, the term chromatography is used. Right. How is the elution order here? Your sample may be containing hydrophilic neutrals, hydrophobic neutrals, and intermediately hydrophilic or intermediately hydrophobic neutrals, whatever it is. Micelle is hydrophobic. It will exhibit more hydrophobic property. Therefore, hydrophilic neutrals are insoluble in the micelle. The solubility of hydrophilic neutrals will be negligible. So, their electrophoretic velocity will be more, even more than the electroosmotic flow. So, therefore, they are eluted first. Hydrophilic neutrals are going to be eluted first because they are insoluble in micelle. Then, all those solutes which are hydrophobic, their dissolution or their solubility or their ability to get dissolved in the micelle will be more. So they will be moving along with the micelle. So they are eluted last. They are eluted last. They are going to be eluted along with the micelle. So first hydrophilic solutes are going to be eluted. Then hydrophobic solutes are eluted at last. What are the solutes they are eluting in between? So those neutral spaces that exist in a partition equilibrium between the buffer and the micelle, all those solutes which are partitioned between the buffer and the micelle, they are going to be eluted between the completely hydrophilic and hydrophobic neutrals. Means these group of solutes are eluted here. First the hydrophilic, then the solutes which are going to be partitioned between the micelle and the buffer, they are eluted next, then hydrophobic. And all those neutral species which are possessing the property of the buffer, they are going to be eluted before the elution of the micelles. Means before the hydrophobic molecules, all those solutes which are favoring the buffer solution are eluted. First hydrophilic, then the solutes partition between the micelle and the buffer, then the solutes favoring the property of the buffer, then hydrophobic solutes. So this is how the order. So hydrophilic solutes, then the solutes partition between the buffer and the micelle, then the solutes favoring the buffer solution, then the hydrophobic solutes. Now you have the order of elution. Neutrals may be hydrophilic neutrals, hydrophobic neutrals, intermediately hydrophilic or hydrophobic neutrals, then the neutrals which are favoring the property of the buffer solution. So we can distinguish what is the order of the elution. So that's what this micellar electrokinetic chromatographic technique can be used by utilizing the principle of capillary electrophoresis by using a surfactant molecule so that the neutrals can be separated one by one based on their hydrophilicity or hydrophobicity and based on their ability to get partition between the micelle and the buffer. And not only the partitioning, but also if they possess the property of the buffers, they will be eluted along with the buffer because their electrophoretic mobility is as same as the electroosmotic mobility. So by using this principle, wide variety of the samples can be subjected, especially pharmaceutical samples and the samples containing vitamins and even the explosives, because they tend to undergo partition between the micelle and the buffers. So we can easily perform the separation of these type of compounds. Apart from this micellar electrokinetic capillary chromatography, capillary gel electrophoresis is also important electrophoretic technique for the separation of the neutrals. As the name is implying here that the capillary tube is immobilized with a gel such as polyacrylamide or agarose or sapphirose, whatever it is, a polymeric gel will be immobilized, is filled into the capillary tube. You know, gel is porous. So solute molecules will be migrating through the gel with their own velocity. With their own velocity. This velocity is called as electrophoretic velocity. So based upon their size, as we saw in size exclusion chromatography, whatever the solutes which are having larger size, their electrophoretic velocity will be greater, and whatever the solutes which are having lower size, their electrophoretic velocity will be low. Therefore, larger solutes will be eluted first. At last, smaller solutes. In between these two, intermediately sized solutes are going to be eluted. So this will be seen in capillary gel electrophoresis. So into the capillary, the gel is going to be immobilized. Buffer will be acting like a mobile phase. So electroosmotic flow will be initiated. The movement of the solutes is in respect to their electrophoretic mobility based on the size. So say for example, DNA fragments can be separated. Even varying length of DNA fragments will be having similar charge to size ratio. In conventional capillary zone electrophoresis, it is difficult to separate them. But DNA fragments are having the ability to get partition. Therefore, capillary gel electrophoresis is most suitable technique for the separation of DNA fragments based on their size. Even the length of DNA is varying. They may not be possessing different properties in order to get separated by capillary electrophoresis. But if you use capillary gel electrophoresis based on their size, even though they are possessing varying length based on their size, we can separate them. So all those DNA fragments which are having larger size, they will be eluted first. All those DNA fragments which are having lower size, they will be eluted last. All those DNA fragments which are having intermediate size between these two extremes, they are eluted in between. So the capillary used for capillary gel electrophoresis must be treated in order to destroy the selenate anion groups. So ionic treatment is required, otherwise the gel's extrusion takes place from the capillary tubing. So the capillary property must be destroyed by chemical treatment, ionic treatment. It is very, very important to treat the capillary walls in order to exclude the gel's extrusion from the capillary tube. Otherwise, gel will start to leak, just like column bleeding in GC or HPLC. Here, gel's extrusion will be taken place. So this has to be prevented by treating the capillary tube. This will be done by chemical treatment by initiating the free radical mechanism. And the sample will be injected electrokinetically, because hydrodynamic injection will be not suitable. It is not going to be most appropriate technique. Electrokinetic technique is very simple technique, and the samples are going to be injected accurately and more precisely. And application, as you know, this can be used for the separation of biomolecules. As I told, DNA fragments can be partitioned in this capillary gel electrophoresis, and even proteins and some oligonucleotides and even other enzymatic molecules can also be subjected for separation by capillary gel electrophoresis. Next is capillary electrochromatography. So this is more interesting technique for the separation of neutral species. A very simple principle here is you will take an empty capillary tube and that will be packed with silica particles, because electrochromatographic separation we are going to perform by applying the electric field. We will initiate the movement of the solutes. We will initiate the movement of the solutes by applying the electric field. The silica particles which are having the size of from 1.5 to 3 micrometer, it should be 3 micrometer, will be immobilized into the capillary tube. And these silica particles must not be polar. So polarity of the silica must be destroyed by bonding process, so that we can convert this polar silica into non-polar silica. So bonded stationary phases can be used here, and these bonded stationary phases are commonly employed in reverse phase HPLC. So non-polar stationary phase was used by using polar mobile phase. The elution was performed in HPLC utilizing the reverse phase chromatography principle. So by using such non-polar stationary phase, the separation of neutral species can be employed, and this is called as capillary electrochromatography. Here, the neutrals are going to be separated based on their ability to get partition between the stationary phase and the buffer. This partitioning is due to the electroosmotic flow, right? So the buffer will be acting like a mobile phase, and buffer will be moving at a faster rate because it is possessing electroosmotic mobility. The ability of the solute to get partition between the stationary phase and mobile phase, the principle remains intact. Whatever the solute which are having lesser electrophoretic mobility, they stay in the capillary tube for longer time. If they are moving along with the buffer, they are eluted first. That's what the term chromatography here. That's what we can say here. The principle is analogous to HPLC principle. But we don't apply any pressure here. We need not to use any pump in order to create the pressure. Inlet pressure need not to be created. Just we will apply the electrical energy. We will create the electric field so that we will initiate the movement of the solutes. We will initiate the movement of the neutrals. So efficiency is very high when compared to HPLC in this capillary electrochromatography. So capillary electrochromatography, capillary gel electrophoresis, micellar electrokinetic chromatography, all these techniques are employed for the separation of neutral solutes. So this is about the capillary electrophoresis, the instrumentation of capillary electrophoresis and methods of capillary electrophoresis we have understood in a better manner.